So recently, the American Academy of Pediatrics had a few recommendations for children, especially when it comes to the amount of screen time they get. But before we get to the specifics of that, let's hear what Louis C.K. had to say about his own children and smartphones.
Some parents really struggle with, like, all the other kids have the terrible things, so my kid has to. Yeah, let your kid go and be a better example to the kids. She doesn't, just because the other stupid kids have phones doesn't mean that, okay, well, my kid has to be stupid, otherwise she'll feel weird.
Right.
You know, I think these things are toxic. I don't, especially for kids. It's just this thing. It's bad, and
right.
they don't look at people when they talk to them, and they don't build the empathy.
So the American Academy of Pediatrics has the following suggestions and recommendations. They said that too much TV and other media use have been tied to obesity, sleep and school problems, and aggression. Children under 2 years should only be watching TV and other screens for about 2 hours a day, nothing more than that. And they also say that parents should keep children's rooms free from TV and internet access, which sounds terrible. I always had a TV in my room. I always had internet access as soon as we had a computer. I can't imagine not having the access to it. But they make good points because it could really screw with the development of kids. If they're under the age of 2, they shouldn't have any access to digital media. But who knows? Maybe they're making a really great point. I want to open this up to you guys. Ron, what do you think? Do you think that this the American Academy of Pediatrics is dead on?
I don't know, dead on. I mean, I think, yes, they have a point. On the other side, you know, this whole kind of fear of embracing technology, I mean, we can trace that back to writing and Socrates, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, we have this long history of kind of doing that. And the fact is, you know, the internet's here, it's not going anywhere, and kids should learn how to utilize it and use it as a valuable tool, which it has the potential to be. On the other side, there are a lot of really good studies out there that indicate that the internet does hurt attention spans. It deteriorates spelling ability. And a lot of kids that are, you know, at these kind of ages of growth where they're developing those skill sets, I do think that too much use could really hurt that. And they need to focus on that. They also need to learn how to use a library and stuff like that and not just know the internet.
Do they really? Do you think that it's important to learn how to use a library?
I think so, yeah, because I think you develop other ways of conducting research when you're actually, when you have a tangible book, mm-hmm. and you're doing research that way, you're using different articles and so forth. That's different than just kind of going on the internet, even if you're on an academic database or something.
That's fascinating. I would actually disagree with that, but
I think it's important to preserve libraries for the next generation of kids who aren't going to use them. And I don't know how to use a library, but I think, you know, we talk about the people not knowing how to use their phones or the technology. See, the technology is faster than our culture can catch up to it, right? So we haven't created mores, norms, and ways to deal with these things. And it you know, especially when someone doesn't even know the right volume. What is it about a cell phone and people's volume that they have to go louder, as if it's not 2 strings in a cup? Let the technology work for you. It's you don't have to scream so they can hear you. Are you all the way in Indiana? Yeah, don't worry, the electric works.
I thought that one of the things that was interesting about this report is that it didn't address some of the things I thought it would have addressed, which is the physiological impacts of having children that are, you know, at formative ages seated in a position for longer periods than they should. And when you look at ergonomics or the impacts that it could have on their eyes, you know, that kind of thing, I think I would have appreciated much more than the suggestions that they made. I think that the suggestions that they made, any common sense parent would know these things already.
Definitely. I mean, I want to know what a cell phone does to your brain when you're holding it close to your head.
Yes.
Those types of things are definitely more fascinating than just a bunch of suggestions. And I don't want to say speculation as to what it will do to a child's development, but I feel like I would want them to elaborate a little more on why these recommendations exist. Now, they do make a really good point, and Louis makes a good point in that video about how we have become so obsessed with social media, with technology, that we're kind of losing communication, face-to-face communication with people. You know, you see people buried in their phones all the time. And it kind of, that definitely does hinder emotional development that you could possibly have with the person.
I don't know. I mean, I think it could be argued that what's changed, the technology is changing the ways, the mechanisms, the ways that we communicate. But it doesn't necessarily change the fact that we do communicate.
Right.
And that's essential to being human.
Well, that's true, but at the same time, face-to-face communication requires eye contact. And when you're making eye contact while you communicate, you develop this emotional attachment to someone.
FaceTime.
FaceTime. FaceTime is really important. Definitely, definitely. There's no question about that. And also, another thing that I worry about is children not getting enough physical activity because they're sitting down and they're watching a screen or they're playing a video game. The best part of my childhood was going out there, riding my bike, you know, playing with my neighborhood friends and just enjoying my childhood. So,
well, you know, it's weird too is that we've become such a technology culture that, you know, people don't understand the difference between FaceTime and other way of communicating through Twitter or email or texting all the time, and nobody wants to talk to you. For God forbid I called you and you pick up. Holy shit! Please let it go to your machine. So we're not caught up yet. We don't know what we're doing. I don't think we know what we're doing.
Do we ever know what we're doing? I mean, isn't that why we're here, to kind of learn what to do?
Yes, I guess you're right. You know, and the big difference I think between like electronic communication and this kind of communication face to face is like the difference. Like I didn't go see a live concert until I was almost 20 years old, and I was like, oh, like live music kicks ass, right? So it's a big difference between watching a video or like we're comedians. People come out and see live comedy. They're like, it's so much better. Yes, it's better in person. This is how you're supposed to interact with people.
right, good point.